Alright guys, so take a look at this. This is the KTM Super Adventure R. Look at how big that bike is. This looks almost like an African twin or something. It's pretty nice though, because looking at my knees are, well, I'm 6'4", so not too bad. So to start it, you hit the gray button, wait for the screen to come on, and you hit this button right here. Didn't have to pull the clutch in. It's in neutral. I'm guessing it probably won't start in gear. Alright, so let's see where the foot pegs are. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty much like a straight up and down position. I like that my knees come like to right here, which is pretty nice. Has a real upright position. Kind of has the tombstone mirrors. These mirrors are kind of crazy. I should get some of these for my Harley Davidson. I really like them. It's pretty nice. Alright, so I put it in gear. I'm gonna bring my visor. Whew, it is hot today. I don't know if it has, yeah, it has a temperature. 83 degrees. Yep. Alright, so let me show you the clutch. Look at how far you gotta put the clutch way out. Look at that, look at that. That's crazy. Alright. And then the friction zone, let me put my visor down a little. Friction zone is pretty small. I think the Super Duke 1290 had a bigger friction zone. Wow, this is like completely different than the Super Duke 1290. The gearing and the ratio and everything, completely different. Wow. This thing has some pickup. Now, what's kind of interesting on this one, if you actually compare it to the Super Duke 1290, this is really it's a completely different bike, completely different. I just got off the that was my first KTM, was the Super Duke. That one was kind of weird because it had kind of a almost like a Harley Davidson feel at the low RPMs and kind of like a street bike at the high RPMs. And this one, it doesn't really have the choppy, kind of a deep throat choppiness like the Super Duke at the bottom end that kind of sounded like the Harley. This one kind of has more of a kind of a whiny sound to it. But the other thing that's interesting is pretty much the same as the Super Duke. It has power, a lot of power through the whole range. You know, some bikes have no power at the low end, like a lot of your sport bikes. They don't have power at the low end. Whoa, this is like, where's the ground? Wow, a lot of pickup. This is a fun bike. Really fun. Alright, see if I can... We're getting kind of close to each other here. And apparently we have auto-canceling blinkers on the 1290s. The Super Duke and this one both had the auto-canceling blinkers. Where you can see the guy in front of me. You have to remember every single time to cancel your blinkers. That absolutely drives me crazy. Oh, I do not like that. This thing, you could definitely pick up the front end, I think. It's very comfortable. The seats, you can really grab the tank with your knees. So it seems like it's really super stable, really comfortable. The seat's pretty hard, I'd say. Not really like your cruiser seat. Back brakes are good. Man, the clutch. Takes a little bit getting used to the clutch. Not bad, not bad. It does have a more forgiving friction zone, I'd say, than a lot of your Indians. I'd say that a lot of your Indians, almost every single one that I rode, has like a really, where you have to let the clutch way out, but then the friction zone's really super small on your Indians. which is hard to get used to. It's almost like you're constantly stalling. Wow. This is a really fun bike. As a matter of fact, they say this is one of the funnest bikes. Nice. Alright, we're getting quite a bit of wind coming here, whipping through here. So this is actually the off-road version, the off-road version, and seems to have a little bit of buzziness in the handlebars, not as bad as what you'd see. I think the worst one that I've been on was the Honda African Twin. That was like super buzzy. You get up to about 50 or 60 and it's like you're hanging on to a couple of vibrators. This one not as buzzy. Of course, this one has the really aggressive tires. I think a lot of it has to do with the tires too. So you get some really aggressive off-road tires. You try to take it on the highway and go really fast. I think a lot of that is you get your buzziness from that too. It has some wind deflection. Actually, I'm surprised how well the little tiny windshield does. Kind of flipping the air up over my helmet. It's not a lot of direct wind. Oh, another thing I noticed on this, right off the bat, every now and then, you'll see motorcycles that you can feel the heat from the engine. And this one, you definitely can start feeling it. Yeah, there's some bikes that are so hot they're like burning, especially on a hot day like this. This one, you can feel it a little bit. I didn't really feel it at all on that Super Duke. I didn't notice the warm engine. This one I can notice it. It's noticeable, but not like sweating me out. Of course, it's 78 degrees. As far as stability on the road, pretty stable. Really, I'd say, ooh, that's weird. It did not like that I was in too high of a gear giving it gas. It sounded like, it did not like that. Oh yeah, I definitely feel some heat coming off the engine, like right around my feet. Of course, today I actually have some long johns on. Because you never know what the weather's going to be like on these demo rides. Sometimes you get caught in rain or a cold front or something like that. Sometimes you get caught in really strong wind. Like right now, we're getting some pretty strong wind. Yeah, this one kind of complains if you have too low of a gear and you give it gas. It seemed like the Super Duke was a little bit more forgiving as far as giving it gas at too high of a gear. You kind of hit those low RPMs. It seemed like the Super Duke had more power at lower RPM. Of course, this one has a very upright position. The Super Duke was way leaned over a lot to where it was kind of bothering my hands. This is a very comfortable stance on this one. So yeah, pretty nice, pretty nice. And these are all in road mode. They said do not change the mode, do not do wheelies. So a lot of times you put them in like a road mode or rain mode, and it kind of dumbs down the bike to where you can. I think even in the road mode, you could probably lift the tire on this one, do a wheelie. I was asking him about insurance on these demo rides. He said, yeah, if you're doing wheelies out there and you wreck the bike, you're paying for it. But if you just have an accident, they're paying for it. So another incentive not to get crazy on these test rides. It kind of makes me nervous about the people behind me as far as kind of crowding in and running into me. Because you never know. Pretty stiff suspension, I'd say. Not too bad. Almost like a kind of a cross between an off-road and an on-road. Yeah, it's a pretty nice bike. Pretty nice. Front brakes are pretty chunchy, but they're pretty good. Not quite as bad as, it seemed like the Super Duke had really super sensitive brakes where I barely touched the brake. And I felt like you were going to flip the whole bike over. It kind of freaked me out on that one. The other interesting thing is if you look at the sides, it almost looks like the BMW with the sideways engine. But I was kind of looking at it. It doesn't look like it has the sideways engine. Yeah, this clutch is pretty nice once you get used to it. Whoa. The acceleration is kind of hard to get used to. This thing just jumps. Woo. That's crazy. Let's see, I don't want to crowd this guy. I don't want to lose people. It's always hard to get close enough to where you're not losing people. Kind of the other thing that's kind of tough about this bike is you can't hear the engine at all, really, especially in the wind. It's pretty slow response on turning. Pretty slow response. That Super Duke was really twitchy. That's the other thing that's kind of hard to get used to. Not hearing the engine. It's hard to tell when to shift on this because that's kind of why I was giving a gas at the wrong gear, like a high gear, and I was giving a gas and was really complaining. Because you really can't, I'm sure if you rode this for a while, you'd really rely on the RPM indicator on the dash there. As far as taking one hand off, pretty stable. Waving at other bikers, not too bad. I've been on some bikes, like the Harley-Davidson Sportsters. You get going at highway speeds and you're like, I can't let go of the handlebars, it's too scary. This one's not bad, going 50. Has the gear indicator, which is nice. There's so many buttons. Lots of buttons on this one. It's hard to figure out what the blinker is. That's the one thing. Yeah, this is a fun bike. So it doesn't really seem like the engine's as hot as some. I'd be burned out by some. I'm not going to mention any names as far as what bikes burn me out on the engine, from the engine heat. But yeah, this one's not bad. I can feel it on my feet and my ankles. Nice, lots of pickup. Really fun bike. That's almost seems like, yeah, that's all engine. So there is vibration through the handlebars. It seems like it's all engine vibration, giving it a little bit of a buzzy feel in the handlebars. So this one's kind of interesting because it looks like the RPMs go up to 10,000, which, you never really could get that high in a Harley Davidson. Usually you can't get above like 5,000 or 6,000. So, but on this one, it almost seems like you wouldn't want to go much above 5,000 or 6,000 as far as the RPM on this one. Whereas the Super Duke, it almost seems like once you get to the higher RPM, it almost turned into more of a sport bike feel, where this one doesn't really do that. This is more like an adventure bike. So I found it interesting with windshields because it seems like no matter what windshield you have, it really changes the airflow to where sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. And on this one, you can definitely tell it takes the wind off your chest and it's easier to ride. But I'd say, well, it's not really choppy wind, and my head's not getting any buffeting at all on this. But I'd say it's louder wind, much louder than without a windshield, where you just get the straight wind. But this one, it seems like you get It takes the wind off, but it seems like it's louder. All right, let's see how it is around this sharp corner here. Not bad. I think more stable around the corner than the Super Duke. Man, this thing just takes off. They say no wheelies? Yeah, I can see how you can just twist the throttle and easily do a wheelie on this thing. It's pretty incredible. So as far as the mirrors, if you actually look at how much you can see in the mirror, I would say it's probably one of the best mirrors up there with the I'm trying to think. I think it was the BMWs. I can't remember which bike had the best mirrors. The thing that kind of throws me off is how far the ground is down. It's pretty far down. You're like, oh yeah, I gotta reach way down for the ground. I'd say, well, my knees are bent. I'm 6'4". You could probably be maybe 6 foot, maybe 5'8", maybe. And you still have some clearance. I've seen people try to go tippy toes on bikes. Let me tell you, that is not a good idea. Trying to drive a bike when you're that short, trying to drive a bike that's too big. So every time I go for the blinker, I find myself looking at all the confusing buttons on this thing. Lots and lots of buttons. Like, which button do I have to hit for the blinkers? This thing is really nice. Back brakes are pretty typical. Nothing surprising. Looks like you can stop pretty good, but you gotta push it pretty hard. Pretty stable at 55. Not too bad. Not scary at all. A little bit buzzy in the handlebars. It's pretty typical with your adventure bikes to be a little bit buzzy. Not as bad as the African Twin, I'd say. Can't really hardly hear the engine at all. Fifth gear, we have 6 gears. There are 6 gears. Oh, it has your, oh, that's nice. It actually has your gas gauge. And your clock and your trip. Your temperature, it's perfect out right now, 76. A little windy, but yeah, the temperature's really nice. Very upright position. Kind of the weird thing is, it seems like the grips are really thin. Like it has really thin grips on the handlebars. Oh, this one just has the other thing I noticed on this one, it just has one fluid reservoir for the brake. Where your Super Duke actually had 2. I don't know if that's probably from the front and the rear. Yeah, the wind's really picking up, but I still feel really stable. No problem at all. As far as turning it left and right, you gotta push it pretty hard. Not too bad. But you have to push the handlebars pretty hard left and right to actually turn it. Alright, let's see. Yeah, I could really get used to this. This is a really fun bike. You could get in trouble with this bike. You could get in a lot of trouble with this bike. I've seen some people say that out of all the bikes they've ridden, this is the funnest to ride. So, yeah, I would say it's definitely up there with one of the funnest. Definitely a different kind of a bike. Not a sport bike, not really cruisers, kind of an adventure all-around bike. There's an interesting engine sound. I noticed all these KTMs have a completely different sound, really, than all the other bikes. It's kind of interesting. Oh, I want to come over here. Slow speed. Not if you get actually down to like 2 miles an hour, 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour. Not that stable, I'd say. As far as that, let's see. It's got a little loop on the kickstand, which is pretty nice. All right, that is a really tall bike. Look at that. I could barely get off this thing. It's got this little part of the seat right here that really sticks up. All right, so there you have it. That is the 2022 Super Adventure R from KTM. All right, guys, thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.